The problem is the narcissist, or I should say your narcissist, loves to control you. They are fascinated by the ability that they have, and they're just really proud of it, that they can pull your strings and make you do whatever they want you to do. Now, that may be a bit of an exaggeration, but yeah, they want to get inside your head, and they're very good at it, and control your thoughts. Okay, so this is after the discard or during the process of the discard, and you build these boundaries around you to keep the narcissist out. There, he's gone. But the problem is, it's like building a fence around your garden to keep the rabbit out when the rabbit is in the garden. Well, what you did is you just fenced the rabbit in the garden. That's what we do when we begin ruminating and thinking over and over again these negative thoughts about how this guy ripped you off, or this girl, whoever it is, or how they took advantage of you, and we just obsess with that through rumination, and what has happened is it's inside us. The narcissist is out of sight. We can't hear them. We can't see them, except in our head. That's where they are, inside our head. So number one is this: how to deal with this problem, how to get them out of our mind. Well, I guess this is kind of obvious, but we need to reset our thinking, because we need to understand that he or she did whatever he or she did to us, or said whatever they said, because we put ourselves in a position where we allowed them to. Now, I'm not saying that we are totally to blame, because they blindsided us. We didn't know it was coming, but still, ultimately, we put ourselves in that situation. We didn't know it. We fell for their love bombing, for their grooming, and they got us. Okay, now that they got us, they're inside our head, because now we're thinking about how this person just treated us so poorly. So first, we need to focus on resetting our thinking. Get the rabbit out of the garden. We built the fence around it to protect us from the rabbit, and there he is inside the garden. So we need to get him out. Number two is this: we do this by refocusing rumination. Rumination, I would say, is the refuse or the trash of negative engagements. So you had an engagement with this individual. You met somewhere. When I say engagement, I'm talking about you had an experience with this person of one kind or another. You engaged with it. Maybe it was a conversation, maybe it was business dealing, maybe it was a family issue, but you had this engagement with this individual. And now you're focusing on that because it did not turn out well. Did you ever notice that we tend to focus on and ruminate about things that are negative, that hurt us, but never, or almost never, about the good things? Why is that? Somebody does something nice to us, and we don't stop and think about that over and over again, that, oh, that person was so kind. That person was so nice. I've talked about this in other videos, but the way to deal with that is to consciously, intentionally, make a list. I'm talking about a physical, literal list. Get out your spreadsheet on your computer and make a list of positive things that you have experienced ever. Maybe go back to day one of your life, maybe just the last 24 hours. I like to focus on what happened the last 24 hours. Positive experiences that I have had with people. What am I doing? Well, I'm focusing my brain. I'm focusing my thoughts. Well, more accurately, I'm refocusing my thoughts away from the rumination. Now, I was going to say that's sometimes hard to do, but really it's not. How hard is it to think? Well, you're thinking right now, so it must be pretty easy. Now, if you can type or if you can write, I'm assuming most people can, that how hard is it to write your thoughts? How hard is it to remember something positive that happened? Not hard at all. Now, what happens when you don't do that, if you just let your mind wander? Well, it goes on autopilot, and that's where rumination comes in. So the narcissist hurt you, and now you're ruminating about that. Got to get it out of your mind. Got to reset your mind, and you do that intentionally, willfully, purposely, my opinion, by making a list, by being thoughtful, mindful of good things. Yeah, good things actually did happen to you, whether you want to admit it or not, but good things that have happened to you. Number three is this: you become consciously aware, intentionally, you get this thought in your head, that you live with the consequences of your decisions. The narcissist doesn't really control your brain. He or she just thinks she does. But if we allow them to, well, good for the narcissist, bad for you. But ultimately, we need to keep in mind that we're the ones who decide whether or not we're going to allow that rumination to stay inside our head. We got to make a decision. I'm going to let it stay there. I'm going to get rid of it. No one's going to make that decision for you. Now, if you choose to make no decision whatsoever, now listen to me because this is important. If you opt to make no decision, then you are deciding to keep the rumination inside your head. If you make a decision not to get the rabbit out of the garden, the rabbit's going to stay in the garden and he's going to be very happy there. Maybe it's a she. I don't know. If you make the decision not to end the rumination, you're making a decision to not end the rumination. It's so obvious. I'm not sure why I'm even saying it, but it's something we need to be conscious of. That we have to live with the consequences of our actions. And again, if we don't get the rabbit out of the garden, then we're going to live with the consequences of having a rabbit. You know, rabbits, one day you got one, next day you got 10. And they're inside your garden. Same thing with rumination. Okay, you've got these thoughts and they just explode. You know, they just have a way of reproducing themselves. Number 4 is this. Got to be honest with yourself. Got to be honest with yourself. There's a little exercise that I suggest people do to come to terms with being honest with themselves. And I want you to think if you were an employer, you worked in the human resources department, and your job was to hire people. And I want you to imagine you're sitting at your desk. You are the hiring, firing person. That's your job. And then you walk in the door. So there you are giving yourself an interview to work for wherever it is. Maybe it's a factory. I don't know. Would you hire you? Why? I mean, you're sitting there talking to yourself and you're asking yourself about your strong points, about your weak points. And while you're talking to yourself, you got to be honest because you know if you're lying, right? So, okay, put it in these terms. Myself, if I were the recruiter of an NBA basketball team, I would not hire me. I just wouldn't. You know, number one, I'm too old. Number two, I couldn't play ball when I was young. So it really doesn't, no, sorry, get out of my office. I'm not going to hire you. I'm just being honest with myself. I'm not that good at playing basketball, right? But there are some things I'm good at. So if I were the human resources person, maybe at a factory somewhere, okay, then I might consider hiring me because I think I would be good for the job for a while until I get bored to death. Most of my life I've been self-employed. I own my own business. That's what I'm good at, and nobody hired me. And that's another point, totally off topic, but consider, sometimes just hiring yourself. If you want to be self-employed, first employee you have is, well, you. Give yourself an interview. Number 5, and I love this one, and that is, you can change only one person. Now, you can influence other people, you can have an effect on other people, and other people can have an influence on you and affect you, but there is only one person ultimately that you have the most control over, and guess who that is? Well, it's a guy you just interviewed in your office. That's you. You control you. So we have these negative responses, reactions, this rumination to the narcissist getting inside our head. Who's in charge of your head? I think you are. Yeah, you're in charge of your head. Now, what happens is we use our brain for a trash dump. And whatever garbage somebody wants to dump in there, we just let them dump it in. Sometimes we can't stop them. I mean, you can't, as the saying goes, you can't unhear what somebody says. But you don't have to ruminate on it. If somebody dumps trash in your front yard, literally where you live, You don't have to let it sit there. You can go out there. It may make you mad, frustrated that you have to do this because somebody would have the nerve to dump trash in your yard. But ultimately, it's your yard. You got to go get that trash out of your yard. Somebody else should do it, but they're not going to. So, and I guarantee you, the narcissist who put those negative influences, thoughts in your head, got no interest in getting them out because he wants them there. It just shows that he or she is controlling you. So it is your responsibility. So we say that you and only you are the one who can change yourself. And if you're waiting for somebody else to do it, I mean, it's perfectly okay to get help, counseling, consulting, if it's somebody you trust, but ultimately you're the one who has to go do that. So assume responsibility for yourself after you are honest with yourself and you know what your limits are, you know what your abilities are. And you got to keep this in mind. When you're dealing with narcissists, is the things they did to you, that helps expose your character, what you're going to do with it. But it also exposes the narcissist character. And it also exposes the character of other people in your life when triangulation begins, when the smear campaign begins. So yeah, you're responsible for you, but you're also responsible, I think, for being conscientious of what's working in the minds of other people. And I've talked about this in other videos, but there are some real advantages to a smear campaign. Number one, you find out who your friends are. Number two, you find out who your friends are not. Those are the ones who listen to the narcissist and believed his or her nonsense. Finally, that takes us to this one. This is a big one. This is a big one. Number 6 is this. Now, it may sound a little cliche, but that doesn't reduce its importance, and that is that you have one chance to live. One life. That's it. One lifetime. No redo. You can't, okay, I screwed up that life. Let me have another one. I'll do this one right. Because I learned so much from my last life, I'm going to live a second life. Unless you believe in reincarnation, that's not the way reality works. And if you do believe in reincarnation, I'll just skip over this part. But, we talk about saving time. We don't save time. You can't put time in a bottle and say, well, I only need 20 hours today, but I could use that extra 4 hours, next week sometime. You can't do that. You can't take time to the bank and put it in a deposit safety box. It doesn't work that way. You use it or you lose it. So we say, okay, I can't relive my life. Got it. But guess what? We can reduce that down to today. You can't relive today, ever. Once it's gone, it's gone. So you use it or you lose it. Now, we can reduce this as far as you want to go. We could say you can't relive this hour, you can't relive this very minute, because when the clock turns over, the minute is gone. Okay, you can't relive the second, the nanosecond, however far down you want to get it. You get it and you got it. Time, we don't take time to do anything. Time takes itself. You use it or you lose it. Now we all know what we mean, take time to do something, but in a very literal sense, that's not what we're doing. We don't take time. Time just comes and goes. We don't have anything to do with that. Do I want to waste today? Well, do I want to waste my life ruminating, stirring the trash in my brain because some narcissist wants to use it for his trash dump? Do I want to spend my life doing that? Do I want to spend today doing that? What about an hour? Nah. Well, how do you get this out of there? Well, the thing that I suggest to people is you've got to intentionally refocus your thinking, because rumination is by default. Your brain just does it. You don't have to do it intentionally. But what you can do is intentionally refocus your thoughts. How do you do that? Well, you can listen to music. You can read a book, read the news on the internet, whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do to refocus your thoughts. And the more you do that, the less rumination takes up space in your brain. I guess that's the best way to say it. So yeah, the narcissist just used your front yard to dump trash. Now you're going to have to haul it out. And the way to do that, it's really kind of fun. You stop and think about it. You do something you enjoy. Wow. listen to music, read something that you like to read, watch television if you find anything decent on. Do what you're doing now. Listen to a video, and you see on your screen those two rectangle squares. Well, if they're rectangle, they're not squares, but if you click on those, then this conversation just keeps on going. But if you're done, well, then we want to thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.